In case you missed it, there were two halftime shows yesterday and two completely different messages. One of them that I did not watch was from Kid Rock, who on Turning Point USA's halftime show started singing some old hits, but then also ended it off with a presentation of the gospel. And conservative commentators like Allie Beth Stuckey, really prominent voice in the conservative Christian movement, applauded this and said, hey, Kid Rock is sharing the gospel. But the problem is that's not all he sang about. And so you can see, as Mike Cosper, prominent voice in the Christian community as well, points out, he sang some questionable lyrics. And people are trying to reconcile the way the gospel was presented in this manner. And this tweet tries to summarize it in terms of this redemptive story where he starts out the set with some worldly lyrics to show who he was, but then gets introduced by his regular name and then ends off with the gospel presentation. You can see the rest of the tweet here for context, but you can see that they're trying to understand and maybe interpret the artistic expression here to show a redemptive journey. But is that fair to say? Is that even the right way to present the gospel? I'm all for artistic expression and the freedom to do so, but to stretch and say that, yeah, you're starting off with some really vulgar lyrics to 5 million people that are watching this, and I know it pales in comparison to the Super Bowl. However, you're not explaining any kind of story here about the gospel. Why is this a problem? In my opinion, I feel like you're manipulating people. You're leveraging Christianity for your own purposes, and not in a good way. When you look at two halftime shows, only one purported to be family friendly, and under a guise of, yes, we are promoting Christian values, goes off the other way and doesn't excuse that behavior. Whereas the actual Super Bowl, maybe you might not agree with all the lyrics or anything like that, but they didn't purport themselves to be a Christian halftime show. And so I think that's a big key difference here when we're comparing both. And I think John Root says it well here too, where it's kind of like a bait and switch, right? You purport yourselves to have this family-friendly Christian type of halftime show, but then you go and do this vulgar expression of old lyrics, even though it was your biggest hit. Who cares? It's really deceptive and manipulative. This is literally why we want to share this next series on church complaints and the reasons why people get pushed away from the church, because they see how Christian leaders and people portray themselves, not just in the national media spectacle, but in lots of different walks of life. But you can see that this is evident today, and we as Christians really have to be vigilant in our portrayal of the gospel and in our witness.